Good evening, everyone. My name is David Freese, and I am the mayor of Tonganoxie. I'm calling to order this April 6th, 2026 City of Tonganoxie City Council meeting. Ms. Huntington, will you call the roll?
Yes, Mayor. Mr. Wilkie?
Here.
Ms. McCutcheon is absent. Ms. Stevens?
Here.
Ms. Gruby?
Here.
Mr. Dale?
Here.
Great. Would you join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This is an agenda packet now. First order of business is to approve the minutes from the regular meeting dated March 16th, 2026. Are there any questions or concerns about the minutes, or does anyone have a motion to approve or deny?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Dale. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Wilkie. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item 3 on the agenda is the consent agenda review bill payments, where we review bill payments from the previous period. Council, do you have any questions or concerns about the minutes? If not, I would expect a motion at this point.
I'll make a motion.
Thank
for
you.
the consent agenda.
Thank you, Ms. Stevens. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Gruby. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item 4 on the agenda is old business. This is a time in the meeting when we normally ask if anyone signed up to speak and wanted to speak tonight. Mr. Porter, did anyone sign up at all?
No sign-ups tonight, Mayor.
All right, well, we'll move on to item A under old business. Ordinance number 1548, e-mobility device policy development. Mr. Porter.
Yeah, I might make, Mayor, if it's
sorry.
okay, I'll make a couple of quick introductory comments on that. As Tonganoxie is not immune to what every other community is dealing with right now, and that's how to address the use of e-mobility devices. Probably specifically for our communities, we have a number of underage kids, and underage in terms of they're not drivers or haven't gone through any sort of driver training. And so what we're seeing, at least on a local level, is I wouldn't say a blatant disregard, probably just no understanding of what traffic regulations are and what are the rules of the road. And so as we've been, we started a lot of this discussion late last year. Staff has participated in regional discussions, both with Mid-America Regional Council. We've reached out to the League of Kansas Municipalities for some direction and guidance. And one of the tough things here is the state's not really giving out any sort of blanketed advice or even definitions that can be easily applied community to community. And what I mentioned at the last meeting is what one advantage Tonganoxie has is we're kind of an island, right? Our city isn't adjacent to another city limits, and so you can think of like in Johnson County where like Leawood, Mission Hills, all of those areas are all touching and sharing borders. And so if one city has different rules, you may not know just by crossing the street that you're in a different set of rules. So we have a real unique opportunity to really define something that just makes sense for our community. The avenue to getting that done is, as we've discussed previously, addressing it through standard traffic ordinances and changing anything at a local level, similar to what we've done in the past for permitting UTVs to be used in town. And so that's what both Chief Lawson and Ms. Kirstelick have been working on. So I mentioned our previous discussions last year, some discussion earlier this year. I want to thank all of you for input along the way. And that really gave staff a chance to present what's in front of you tonight, and that is the first time we're inserting a draft policy. This is in the form of an ordinance It would make modifications to our local traffic ordinances as permitted by state law. And so we want the opportunity for you to react to the draft. We hope it encompasses some of the concerns that we've heard along the way, or at least thus far. And so with that, let me ask maybe Chief Lawson to kind of regurgitate or summarize what's before you and some of the direction we took. And again, maybe looking at things of the three different classes of e-bikes, why we felt it necessary to also address motorcycles as they're defined, because that we didn't want to leave any nuances unaddressed. But if there's something that staff has addressed in a way that causes you concern, this is the time to flush that out, I guess. I will say, if there's consensus tonight and you want to move forward with adopting the ordinance, we can certainly do that. From my perspective, I felt like since this was the first time you're seeing a written draft policy, there's no need to really take that action tonight unless you feel compelled to do so and that we've addressed or answered all the questions. So with that, Chief, I'd ask you to come to the podium and.
Well, I've said a bunch of stuff up here the last couple times and kind of went over some things the last couple times that we've went over this. I guess just to make it a little bit easier on council and the mayor, I mean, are there any questions that anyone has or any kind of concerns that you've read in the ordinance that I could better clarify? I guess would be my first question to you all.
In section 135, and this may be something that this chart will help me understand
Sure.
better. It seemed that anybody with a particular level of bicycle that was motorized would need to have a license plate.
No, I think it's a license, a driver's license.
Okay.
And so, yeah, driver's license.
Yeah.
And so,
I s-
go ahead, I'm sorry.
I saw that. I was looking at it online. Usually I'm a big note taker. I didn't have it printed out. Let me find that again.
I think it might be page 5, number 2. No person may operate a class 2 electric assisted bicycle unless they have a valid driver's license. Is that the reference?
Yeah, and that I understand.
May I ask a question about that particular line? Okay. I really appreciate what it is, and I think everything that you have in here, I think the vast majority of people would agree with. In Tonganoxie, the requirement of helmets for people under 18, I think that's a big frustration. I know so many people that complain about that, and I feel like e-bikes is a tough one where people either love them or hate them.
Sure.
When the reality is it's kind of a gray area of how we can navigate it. My question is not really about what should the policy be, but more about what can it be in light of the state law and the traffic ordinance. Can we, because in the state law, it has a line where it says that electric assisted bicycles are to be treated as bicycles, and then it goes on to specify that you cannot require a driver's license for operating a bicycle. And I think I agree that there are a lot of e-bikes, to use the blanket term, that are more like motorcycles. They're dirt bikes. They don't have pedals. They're essentially motorcycles or mopeds, but when they have pedals, I mean, this is the way I'm trying to understand the Class 2, having pedals, it specifies that it cannot require a driver's license. And so that's where I was wondering more just about the role of the STO in the municipality as we pass an ordinance, if we can actually pass that as a
Well,
code.
and I'll be very honest. I don't have the draft ordinance right in front of me. I have, kind of what Dan had composed and put in the packet, but I can certainly go over there and walk over and get it from him. My understanding of the ordinance is that it is not required, it is not required to have a driver's license, which my interpretation would be that, and I mean, we'd have to ask Anna, but it would be that it's not required, but I don't believe the ordinance says sure. I'm not sure that the interpretation is that you cannot require a license, and I might be wrong on that. Can you tell me what page of the ordinance that you're referencing, Reverend Wilkie?
I'm looking at the state law. It's 8-1592B. And I guess it's paragraph B. It says an electric assisted bicycle or person riding an electric assisted bicycle shall not be required to maintain insurance, a driver's license, registration. So it says shall not be required to maintain. And
That's, okay, thank you for.
so I'm just,
clarifying.
it's a question of I'm not trying to say it's a bad policy to require a driver's license. I'm just wondering if we can pass that as the
Well,
city.
I'll let Ms. Kersler answer that question as far from the legal standpoint, but I think that what we were trying to do is, you can't be more liberal with the state law. You can't say, I'm trying to think of something off the top of my head that, it's illegal on the state level to do this, and we as a municipality can't say, but you can do it here. So, but you can be more restrictive than you can more broad. And so what our position on it is that, and again, I just kind of want to reiterate this, is that the police department, we never have and we never will be arbitrarily pulling over kids, teenagers, adults and saying, what class bicycle do you have? Let's stop, let me see if it just throttles, let me see if it pedals, let me test it out. It's a great example is UTVs. We don't stop people just to say, did you get it registered up at City Hall? And so we have to have probable cause that they're actually doing something that is illegal or dangerous or something that is kind of prohibiting a good quality of life for others. And so our position when we were drafting this is that an e-bike that you have to pedal, no problem. I mean, for anybody, whether you're talking about a 12-year-old, 10-year-old, 30-year-old, it's no problem. But the problem with the Class 2 is it's really no different than the mini bikes that you're seeing running through people's yards, that you're seeing, getting driven on the streets and not knowing the rules of the road. And when you have a self-propelled vehicle that you can just go like this and you can go up to 28 miles an hour, and you're 8 years old, I mean, I consider that to be personally dangerous. And I'm not, and I don't mean that in any disrespectful way. But when you're pedaling, as if a bicycle and it's being assisted to, I mean, the way that I interpret it, or the way we tried to kind of look at it from the police department perspective, is just no different than driving in a 10-speed or an 18-speed. You're switching gears to go faster and easier, but just being able to go approximately 28 miles an hour by going like this at the age of 8 years old down a roadway, we've seen and unfortunately experienced that kind of being dangerous. So that was the rationale for the rule. But again, reiterating what I said before, we're not going to be arbitrarily stopping juveniles or people and saying we want to inspect your bicycle to see what kind it is. If they're riding dangerously or they're doing something to harm themselves or others, that's when we're going to investigate a little more deeply and then look into enforcement.
For sure.
And Anna, can you answer
Yeah.
that as far as the
Yeah,
driver's license?
if I could jump in too as well. So we are not requiring a driver's license to operate the e-bikes. What we're saying is especially with the Class 2, is that we're trying to tie it to an age, but say that, if you have a driver's license, then you can drive it. The point is really more about the age and the kind of education that they've had, and if they have a license. I mean, and it's not specifically requiring a license in order to operate the e-bike. I know it's nuanced, but yeah.
It does say that.
It says, no person may operate a Class 2 electric assisted bicycle within the city unless such person has a valid driver's license. A person without a driver's license may ride as a passenger on a Class 2 electric assisted bicycle that is designed to accommodate passengers. So, and again, I mean, it's nuanced. We're not requiring the driver's license to be able to operate. I mean, we're saying you have to be a licensed driver to be able to operate these. So it's not a license specific for the e-bike. So I think it's an area where we do have a little bit of play with the statute.
So you can, so even though the Kansas law says you cannot require a driver's license, or you, I don't know if you were here when I was talking a minute ago. So it says you cannot require a driver's license, and you're saying because of home rule or whatever the term is, we can essentially just disagree with that.
Well, we're not requiring a driver, is there a specific type of license that is associated with e-bikes? Like a,
No, it's just, I think it would be like a Class C.
Is there
You know, I mean,
like a learner's permit or,
No.
no, nothing tied to e-bikes specifically? But where do learner's permits start now? At what age?
15.
15. So essentially, and that would be a license that would allow them
Yeah.
to
I mean,
ride
and-
one?
Yeah, and again, what our goal is that someone is educated and has been tested on the rules of the road. And so, and I realize that there may be somebody that's chief of police long after me, and that's why we have to worry about making good legislation. We just can't base it upon the temperature right now. But we're looking at just someone who has a basic principles of rules of the road and has been certified from the state to do that, or to operate that, excuse me.
if you would feel more comfortable tying it to an age, we could do that instead.
In the state law, in paragraph G, it says, speaking about class 3, I think from the state, they kind of seem like class 3 seems the most dangerous because it goes 28 miles an hour. It already requires an age of 16. I think an age, I mean, I understand we're trying to make sure that people that are driving in the streets know the rules of the road, and they don't. And so that's kind of the core of the problem. I'm just saying the state laws, to me, kind of prohibiting that particular action, even if it may be the right thing for us to require. Because class 2 is really murky with the motorcycles. It's a gray area between when it becomes a class 2 and an motorcycle. But the class 2, they have pedals, and I feel like that's what it is kind of making the point of it still is in the realm of bicycle, I think, in the state law. So I'm just having trouble moving forward with that when the state law speaks against it. I don't know if anyone else on the council would weigh in on their opinion on that. Or if is there another case where we, as the city, pass an ordinance that overrides the state law?
Well, it was like Chief was mentioning earlier, we can go further than the state law, but we can't do what the state law prohibits. So for something like this, I think if there is a concern about that, it would be better to just identify an age.
My concern about just putting an age on it is, I mean, for people who have kids, even your own kids are different. So when one of my kids was 8, he knew things that my other one, when he was 8, didn't know, and vice versa. So a license is a level playing field where everyone has passed the same test. So I would not be in favor of an age. And I don't have any problem with being more restrictive than the state.
I tend to concur with the consideration that a learner's permit is kind of that first license, and at 14 and a half, 15, when they can get that's kind of that entree and the age that I would look at as being class 2 worthy. I used to have a 50cc Honda Elite scooter back when I was 14 and a half, 15 years old, and I learned a lot about the road and what not to do back then. Some of it was by accident that I learned it, or I learned the hard way, but it was important and very, very critical to learning those skills. But at 13's another story.
I can just kind of add something that our experience has been that the Class 2 has not been a widespread thing with, little kids. It has been the e-motorcycles, which again is not, something that's in the statute. It's not referred to as e-motorcycle. They're just motorcycles, which I think I covered pretty thoroughly, maybe ad nauseum last time, as far as like it being, out of bounds in any way as far as the state's concerned. But the primary thing is, and like if you're riding a Class 1 or a Class 3 on the roadway, it's just going to be like another bicycle. I mean, but again, what we're concerned is there's somebody resting their feet on the pedals and, getting up to a speed that is, quite truthfully, what the speed limit is on 4th Street, or, or 20 mile an hour, 20 or 30 mile an hour on some of the other roadways, and not having the forethought to react accordingly to a car or another vehicle or a person or whatever. So, and to Reverend Wilkie's point, I mean, that's well taken, because the state has not restricted it. I would just kind of maybe add on to that. When I called the League of Municipalities, the state basically told me that we make a very broad sweeping brush to identify what each vehicle is, to identify some of the limitations that we found, like a maximum amount of e-power or CCs on a motorcycle, and handlebars and helmets. But they said, we give the municipality that latitude to be more restrictive because you know what's going on in your particular community. And so, I certainly am not disagreeing with you, Reverend Wilkie. If you're not comfortable with that, we could refine that to say, like, Mr. Dale was saying, you must have at least a learner's permit or higher class license for the Class 2. We're open to anything. You guys are the legislators, and we want to follow your lead.
Some of the youth riding these, they don't know the basic bicycle hand signals.
Could you say it
They
again?
don't know the basic bicycle hand signals.
Right.
For right turn, left turn,
Right.
slow down. I wish there was a way that, and of course, this would be a whole other program. It would be something else to coordinate for the city. It would cost time and money to have a e-safety bike course that students would need to go through. And once they completed it, they would receive a helmet, and they would have to be educated on these basics if they didn't have their driver's license, starting at the age of whatever, or they would just
Right.
have to complete it, period.
Right.
And somehow the helmet that they would receive would be identifiable as a young person who has completed that training, and they would need to demonstrate that while they were operating their
Yeah.
bike. That would be ideal,
Yeah.
but everybody has a lot going on. I know, I wouldn't ask
Yeah.
you or your department to take on yet another thing, but
And I think,
that's what disappoints me is I live downtown near the library, and so I've seen youth that have their driver's license that are great. They always wear a helmet. They're always respectful of traffic. And then a kid that looks like he's 8 years old taking a motocross, little motorcycle thing, and just flying through the four-way stop.
Yeah.
It terrifies me. But
Yeah.
I'm also really proud of the kids who seem to take the privilege seriously.
sure.
I feel like so like in that example, it's like a dirt bike looking bike. That would be a motorcycle, right? In the definitions.
Yeah.
It would have to have pedals to be classified as Class 2. If it
Correct.
doesn't have pedals, I don't know. I've read it a bunch of times trying to understand because it's a lot. But if it doesn't have pedals, it is a motorcycle or a moped.
Right.
Right? Or a
Right.
dirt bike. So does the STO not already provide you the ability to limit the kids that are going through the baseball stadium on a motorcycle? Is it?
Yeah, I
already
called the
able to do
league
that?
on that, and that's a great question. And so, and Ann and I went back and forth on that many times, having, very, very friendly spirited debates about that. So the league, you know, they used to define motorcycles as something as a motorized, a specific amount of CCs to be, you know, classified as a motorcycle. In 2022, they changed that to basically the definition that Mr. Porter, you know, gave you guys in your handouts. And the league said, we are encouraging municipalities to make sure that they adequately define for your community, you know, that. I mean, we have Judge Moore behind me. We haven't brought him a case yet on a motorcycle because we wanted to get this, we wanted to kind of get this stamped out. And there's so much room for interpretation and arguments one way or the other. And it's always best, I have found, to have a specific city ordinance when you're talking about a very specific problem or a very specific issue. So, yeah, we could. I mean, yeah, we could write, you know, under a motorcycle. But people in our community, I can tell you from being out there and trying, we had a couple, you know, spirited debates with some parents. Well, this isn't a motorcycle. The guy that sold it to me said that it wasn't a motorcycle because it was e-powered, and we're trying to explain it really is, and there's only so much amount of street debate we can have on this. And so if citizens many times look up our ordinances, and if it's very specifically defined that it's e-powered or motorized, specifically it's just two wheels, our municipal court, we don't have any problem with interpretation there, with our public defenders, our prosecutors, our judge, our officers, and most importantly, our citizens when they look it up in the book. And so, yeah, but I mean, you're right. I mean, the League of Municipalities told me when I did all this research on this, I said, yeah, you could be writing it right now, but we're trying to make it more specific and very, very unambiguous, so we can refer to that ordinance and continue onward on trying to make the community safe.
Anyone else?
One thing that I would ask you to look at some point in time, and I would like your feedback on, because really, we have no really preference or whatever, the way the ordinance is written right now, and Anna did that on our request, because we were talking about, okay, what's the fastest e-bike? Well, that's a class 3, you know, it's a class 1. The class 2, as we talked about, you know, no, excuse me, the class 3 is the fastest, class 1 is 20, class 3 is 28, and we talked about class 2, and you don't have to pedal at all, but we were talking about our parks. And so right now, the ordinance says, I think it is just class 1 is allowed in our parks and our private trails and all that kind of stuff. We obviously did not allow class 2 for the reasons we've been talking about. In class 3, we prohibited for the fact that it was a higher speed. So I was talking, Mr. Porter and I were going back and forth today, back and forth on this. So I think that what we recognized and is that, do we want to allow class 1 and class 2, you know, prohibit both in parks, or allow both in parks, to allow both of them, or prohibit both of them? Because I think it's tougher for probably a citizen to understand, like, why can I have a class 1, but I can't have a class 3? And the original flavor was the class 1 goes faster, you know, but a lot of our parks, I was talking to Brad back here, and I mean, a lot of our parks, we have signage anyway, you know, no electrical stuff on the trails. So that was one thing that I was wanting to reach out to you folks and see what your feeling are, like none or a certain class on, in the parks. Because that is in the ordinance, they're not in there right now.
I personally, I do, kind of along those same lines, I do find it interesting that the way it is now, at least on the chart, is that class 3 would not be allowed on the trail system or parks, but would on sidewalks. And I find that interesting that, you know, the little 4-foot sidewalk or whatever, however wide they are, down Pleasant Street, someone could be doing almost 30 miles an hour
Right.
down the sidewalk,
Right.
but not on the trail. And I feel like the
And-
trail
and that's a
being wider
good point.
is, you know, could allow for something. I still think, I think the way it's written with class 1 being allowable on the trail, since it's wider, that seems appropriate. 30 miles an hour is traffic speed,
For sure.
when I'm following the law. And that's scary on a sidewalk.
Yeah.
Where obviously pedestrians are, you're tangling with pedestrians the whole time.
Well, pedestrians and kids and animals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I almost would like to see class 3 limited to street as well. I think if someone's gonna go 30 miles an hour, they should be on the shoulder or on the side of the street. I'd be, especially with all the, curbs off of a sidewalk, cracked sidewalks, all the different terrain of a sidewalk.
Right.
So I think, other than that, though, I think everything else is well reasoned.
Okay.
May I jump in here for a moment? If you look at the subsection at the top of page 5 of the ordinance, it says no person may operate a Class 2 or Class 3 electric-assisted bicycle in any public park, skateboard park, sidewalk, trail, or private drive, except where the property owner has explicitly consented to such use within the city. So I think we're covered on Class 3.
Class 3 is not on the sidewalk?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no
I
Class
was
2 or
saying,
3.
And I said on here, on the.
Oh, on the chart, okay.
chart, it reads as such, so the ordinance does not, that's.
Yeah, it also says that they're limited at 20 miles an hour, all classes, right?
Yeah, which to your
Okay.
point is a Class 1.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And so anybody who has a class 3 shouldn't be going up to 28 miles an hour either. Unless they do 5 over the speed limit like everybody.
I personally agree with everything that's in the proposal. I just have concerns about the driver's license with the state law, if that's something we're permitted to do. If we were to approve it and someone were to somehow push back against that and it was like a whole thing, would they win in a legal, appeal of some kind? I just feel like they would. So it kind of seems like we don't have the authority to contradict that. So that's my only pushback. I think we should require the helmets and limit certain roads and not allow them on roads that go certain speeds. I think that's also well within what we're permitted to do in making it stricter.
Changing, not topics much, but the UTVs. Do you happen to know what the STO says about UTVs on city roads?
Well, and we're talking about like the ones that we approved.
Right,
Like
right.
There's no provision in the state statute about UTVs on city roads. They left it up to like county roads, you can
Sure.
drive them on county roads, but they left that up to the municipalities, which I think that's why we adopted, like we had to make an ordinance that said they could.
So there is a comparable situation where we, as a city, developed the ordinance that now requires those things to be registered with lights and safety equipment and stuff that is above what the STO says.
Right. I'm just saying, I'm not disputing that we shouldn't or can't go further than the STO. I'm just saying, can we contradict the STO? If it specifically says you can't do this, can we say, yes, you can?
I think the statute you're looking at, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's
I could be wrong.
8-1592 small b.
Yes.
Okay. The subsection F2, you referred to home rule powers. That's where I was able to get comfortable with the driver's license, because it does say this subsection should not be construed to prevent a city. Well, actually, that may just be limited to sidewalks. I see what you're saying there, but about adopting an ordinance governing the operation of electric-assisted bicycles on streets, highways, roadways, sidewalks, or sidewalk areas under the city's jurisdiction. So that's where I was able to get comfortable. with that, with, referring to the driver's license requirement, but I do see what you mean. It does seem like a bit of a,
Well, yeah, it's a long paragraph, and to me, that one, it seems to end focusing on trails and trail networks. Like if there's a walking trail, we can ban a bike or e-bike from that trail. I could be wrong on that, though. It's a very convoluted, terribly written sentence, so I don't mean to be causing such a problem on this
I think it's a
issue, but-
valid, no, I think it's a valid concern. I would like to, I mean, if you want to defer consideration of this once more,
Yeah,
I
let's
could.
let's give it a week, I would say, because we've talked about this a lot. We've had time to think about it, and maybe for Anna to go check on that or contemplate it more.
Are we meeting next week?
I mean, 2 weeks, in 2 weeks, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree with the waiting another 2 weeks, but I just want to make sure we've gotten out everything that we need to before that.
Yeah, to look at this first draft as a body.
Was there anything else that you wanted us to go back besides that? Anything else that we need to go back to the drawing board on?
I do have a question.
Yeah.
And I think I asked this last time. I'm just thinking about the people, how many neighborhoods don't have a sidewalk? Are there a lot? Are there a few? A
There's a
lot?
few, in some of the older parts of town, if you're not in Stone Creek, or, you're not down here on Fourth, yeah, there's, like, just for instance, down there by the police station, there's no sidewalks down there until you hit down on the church with the new bridge and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, there's plenty without.
I'm just thinking about the parents and kids who, they don't have anywhere to drive them now, to
Right.
ride them, because they don't have
Right.
sidewalks, so.
And, as far as like kids getting to school, to the pool, to the library, the primary problem here is the, I'm gonna call them e-motorcycles, and again, big red flag, that's not the real definition or the appropriate definition, is the mini bikes, the motorcycles.
Yeah.
That is, if you were gonna, on the Richter scale here, that's number one. The e-bikes, the e-bicycles, and I really appreciate the council's attention to detail, because, again, I'm not gonna be here forever, so what I say means nothing. It's what's in the law that we're creating. So, but, the e-bikes are not an epidemic type problem, like we're just constantly getting calls on those. And so if we see a kid riding down the street on an e-bike, we are not gonna stop them and just say, we wanna test out your bike and see what's really going on. Something that's gonna have to flag us as them being dangerous, a complaint or whatever. So, I wouldn't worry about them crossing to get to a sidewalk or, or anything like, now, a motorcycle or an e-motorcycle, yeah. We're gonna be like, I don't care where you're trying to get to, you're not supposed to be riding on the street, but, cause they're legal, the class 1 and class 3.
So really, though, everything is allowed on the sidewalk, with
Pretty
the
much.
exception of an electric or motorized assisted scooter or a motorized skateboard.
Motorized skateboard and a motorized scooter actually, is.
Oh,
there's-
I'm sorry,
in
they
the
are,
new
I'm sorry,
ordinance-
they are on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
I was backward. So they're not allowed on the city road or street, though.
No. And, no.
Would it be possible to make it that they're required to be on the sidewalk, except when there's no sidewalk
Yeah.
present?
mean,
You know,
yeah, we
that
can-
if
yeah.
they're riding down the side of the street to get to a connection of a sidewalk,
I think
for
there's,
example.
what's the verbiage, Ann, on like crossing a or not crossing a highway, but crossing a roadway, or there's some similar verbiage in there that if someone's crossing a road, you
Sure.
can't say, I gotcha, I mean.
Sure. What I'm thinking is like, maybe a student riding to the middle school and along from the middle school, on Evans, there's sidewalk the whole way, but then they get off and go to their home on Church Street that has no sidewalks, and they're 3 blocks down Church Street with no sidewalks.
Yeah,
Again, I understand the idea and have seen PD operate with we're not looking to bust people. I go back
Right.
to the mask ordinance. where no citations were issued, no fines were issued. It was a, hey, come on, let's wear masks.
Yeah.
And so if a kid is just calmly riding down the street to his house, I recognize PD's not gonna jump him.
Right.
But it's gonna be when they're hot rodding and
That's right.
popping wheelies and jumping curbs and all that stuff.
Jake style.
Jake style.
running
They're
stop
freestyling
signs.
it. But I wonder if there is some way to put in the ordinance something that, you know, really talks to that of, you know, if there's sidewalks present, you should be on the sidewalk. And if you're on the side of the street going home when there's no sidewalks present, you know, be safe.
I think we could work something.
Which types of devices would you want? that
Well,
be-
I'm thinking like the scooters and the skateboards. Everything else is already covered, I think.
Could do that.
For sure.
Can I ask one last question?
Oh, please.
With the definition of motorcycle that you provided, it's two wheels, it can be gas-powered, electric-powered, or a hybrid. It's just two wheels, so as long as it doesn't have pedals, it looks like a dirt bike or a motorcycle or a moped. You treat it like a motorcycle, it requires a driver's license or some kind of license. Does that not resolve maybe the majority of problems with people that are trashing the parks or the basketball court, that kind of thing? I mean, does that give you enough to let go of the requiring a license for Class 2, or do you still feel like that's something that you really feel we need to go, consider more deeply and see if
And
we
you
should
know
go
what,
for it?
and no, it's a great question. So as to the motorcycles, I mean, the verbiage that I think Anna put in there was great. It was basically refer back to the STO, and this is the definition, of a motorcycle. As far as the Class 1, the Class 2, the Class 3, I can only, speak to you guys from our historical, our historical experience and things that are coming out through the International Association of Chiefs of Police and MARC and things like that, like what is best practice and what's the best way to possibly, solve an issue. But I don't think it's a great idea for the Class 2, but you guys are the legislators and we're gonna do whatever you guys decide with a smile. So, I mean, as far as like giving up something to get something, though, I really appreciate that. And I have always appreciated the council's willingness to help us out and try to work with the police. But you all, I mean, if you tell us this isn't the way it's gonna be and this is the way we want it, then we're certainly gonna, go enforce what we need to with a smile and go on about our business. But, I mean, I think the Class 2, our biggest concern is like, why are you riding a bicycle that you do not need pedal inertia to get you down the street unless you're just on truthfully, a motorcycle. It doesn't look like a motorcycle and it's certainly got pedals that you can rest your feet on and just give it gas. But, and I'm sure, I mean, truthfully, there's gonna probably be kids out there and people out there without driver's licenses riding those things, and when they see us, they're gonna go, like this, and we're not gonna know the difference. It just gives us a way to enforce it if we're having safety issues or quality of life issues, someone's driving through someone's yard or whatever, but no, we're supportive of whatever the council decides to do, for sure.
Yeah, I think that if the unit can be totally powered on its own, whether it has pedals or not, it's almost the same thing. So I think that's a clear distinction between the three classes.
But to Matthew's point, if it could get us into a legal issue with the state, which Anna's gonna look into, then that could be,
From a license standpoint, but
for requiring a driver's license.
I think that,
It was an astute fine.
but this was comparing them or treating them differently than the e-motorcycle.
Yeah.
And I don't see why they should be treated any different. I see them as the same basic mechanics.
You're not, I don't disagree.
Yeah,
I just,
yeah, there's no disagreement there, but the, going, with the state statute, the wording.
Okay, y'all have put a lot of work into this. We'll take back these notes and present it at the next meeting.
Yes, thank you for the feedback.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you. I don't want you guys to think every time you see me coming that this is what we're going to talk about, like, oh, here it comes. So, but no, we appreciate the venue very much.
thank you, Chief.
Okay, that ends old business. We'll move on to new business. Item 5, item A, ordinance number 1549, Chieftain Park financing approval of lease purchasing agreement.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
before we get started, as my employer is one of the bidders for the financing on this, I will be recusing myself.
Fair enough. All right. So, A, that's Mr. Brockovich's.
Yes, thanks, Mayor. So item A, I'm actually going to ask Mr. Porter to roll through that. He's been coordinating with the Rec Commission, as well as he kind of led the charge internally on working with Ben Hart with Springstead, our financial advisor, as well as Ms. Kristalik and our bond counsel at Gilmore and Bell to kind of prepare all of the documents. You know the history of how we got here, and we can, for the record, once again state why the city's involved in this, and that's the legal limitations for the Rec Commission to own real property, and the interpretation that this equipment is real property. And so we are acting as the conduit for their financing, but it would actually be the Rec Commission paying this down. But having said all of that, I'd be happy to have Mr. Porter give you some of the additional details and then hear from some of the other resident experts in the room.
Thanks, George. I won't steal Ben Hart's thunder on the bid outcomes. I'll let him share that news with you and his recommendation that's included for your reference. But I did want to point out just a couple other elements of the overall project. So as you'll read in the agenda packet materials, bids were due last week. They've been evaluated. The bond documents, or in this case, the lease purchase agreement documents, including a site lease, the lease purchase agreement, the draft ordinance, several other related documents have all been developed primarily through the city's bond counsel, Gilmore and Bell. So those are prepared to a strong level of preparation that helps us be prepared for the closing, which is scheduled in a short time frame to occur on April 22nd. So that's when the city would take possession of the funds in the escrow account for this issuance. One thing that tonight's approval of the draft ordinance for your consideration would accomplish is enabling the city to enter into a contract with Game Time, doing business as Cunningham Recreation. So that's the contractor that you previously received a recommendation to award a contract to from the small working group that was a design committee for this project and evaluated the bidders that responded to the city's RFQ late last year. It also has developed, we've developed a contract template with the help of Ms. Kirstlich and her firm that is under review right now by the company. So in terms of timing and next steps, after tonight's action, with the funds soon to be secured, the city would have the authority to enter into that contract at our next regular meeting, should those contract documents be prepared satisfactorily. In terms of other previous actions, I just wanted to highlight too that back on March 2nd, the City Council authorized moving forward with conveyance of ownership of the property to the city from the Rec Commission. We've not yet recorded those documents, and we'll work to complete that later this week, or definitely prior to April 22nd, which is required. And if anything came up in that timeline, we'd then be required to extend the closing date out to a future date. But I might invite Ben Hart with Baker Tilly to come up and just give you his synopsis of the bid outcomes and highlight those actions.
Good evening. March 20th, we released an RFP, short RFP, to 5 different banks. These banks were actually requested from the city. We received, on March 31st, received 3 bids back of those 5. The lowest bid was First Security Bank at 2.95%. The highest interest rate received was 5.4%. The last one, 3.99%. We also asked the banks for any kind of origination fees that they would charge. One bank didn't have any. The First Security Bank had a $1,000 origination fee. There was no other terms or changes within the term sheet that we had put out on the market. The 2.95% on a 5-year lease is about half of what we typically see on a lease purchase of any kind of this type, especially at a 5-year rate. So that's fantastic rate that was submitted by First Security Bank. I don't know that I have anything else besides that information. If you've got questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Council, do you have any questions? Thank you, sir. Appreciate your work on that.
You bet.
And Mr. Porter, did you say that, is there someone else who might want to speak tonight or no?
Not unless we need to hear from him, but Brad Eccles with the Tonganoxie Recreation Commission's here. And like George mentioned, the agreement for financing and the contractual agreement for the project will be held solely by the city. We're obviously working very closely with the Rec Commission, and we have the interlocal agreement governing our roles and responsibilities that was previously approved. So one thing I just wanted to highlight too is we do have an early repayment option as soon as 3 years into the 5-year term, at which point the city and the rec could make the option to early repay the loan, the lease purchase agreement at that point. And just to highlight the amortization cost to the interest cost at this 2.95% rate, it's a little less than $26,000 a year in the highest interest bearing year of the 5-year term. So a relatively affordable outcome with these bids.
All right, council, do you have anything more?
Nope. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance 1549, authorizing the city of Tonganoxie, Kansas to enter into a lease purchase transaction, the proceeds of which will be used to pay the cost of acquiring, constructing, remodeling, and equipping improvements to Chieftain Park, and to approve the execution of certain documents in connection therewith.
Thank you, Ms. Stevens. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Gruby. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Looking forward to moving ahead with this. I know you all
It'll be
are
a
too.
great project. Item B, consider approval of 2026 facility temporary use lease for the Tonganoxie Water Park for the Tongi Tidal-Wise Swim Team. Mr. Porter.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be brief. You probably realize that I'm not Gretchen Meitler, the Tonganoxie Tidal Waves, I believe, treasurer. She is one of a group of volunteers who lead that organization and have for many years now. We also want to recognize the coaching. Stephanie Shoup is one of the coaches currently serving in the program. She's the wife of our water park manager, Darren Shoup. And as you all know, it's a very popular program. The draft agreement in the packet for consideration tonight is in keeping with the rental agreement that other renters of our facilities use, but it's obviously unique in that it's a combination of dates, including practice sessions and 2 home meets. Some years this group has chosen to host 3 home meets, but because of league scheduling decisions this year and last year actually, they've limited it to 2 instead. So one thing that staff do is we review last year's track record of performance. Were there any issues, any concerns? And we didn't have any collected to highlight for you all to consider. We also review this schedule with our water park manager to ensure that adequate lifeguard staffing is available for the days of the practices and the meets to ensure that those are protected people in the pool at that time and participants in that competition. We don't have any other additional staff comments to offer other than we do recommend approval, and would execute it following that action by the city council.
All right, thank you, Mr. Porter. Council, do you have anything or a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'm happy to make a motion to authorize the water park manager to execute the lease agreement with Gretchen Meitler for the 2026 season.
Thank you, Ms. Stevens. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Dale. You're back. That's great. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item C, consider approval of police department vehicle purchase and outfitting. Mr. Porter.
Thank you, Mayor. This item is included in our 2026 adopted budget. Since Chief Lawson left, as a joke, we're going to tell him that we actually ordered a Kia Forte or something like that. But this is a 2026 Chevy Tahoe patrol vehicle that, again, was included in the adopted budget. You probably realize that, as you've seen around town, our fleet is primarily now Chevrolet Tahoe vehicles. Many years ago, they were Dodge Chargers primarily and some Ford Explorers and an old Impala sprinkled in for fun. So now we're moving to a very consistent line of vehicles. The item included in the budget preparation was a vehicle under this purchase price, so we're satisfied with the bid outcome, utilizing Robert Chevrolet in Platte City, Missouri, government discount pricing approach of procurement. The next piece, though, when you purchase a vehicle like this for the city's police department is the outfitting cost. So that's including interior fit and finish, wiring, lights, sirens, all of that equipment. In most years, we've taken the tact of primarily outfitting it to be a frontline patrol vehicle, which means all of the above that was just described. What we've instead included this year as a proposal is outfitting one of the current command staff vehicles, which are less intensely siren and light equipped, to move it into the patrol realm and then move the new vehicle into a break-in period with command staff. So it isn't put to such arduous use right off the bat when we have it join our fleet. We do then, because of those two actions, ask for your approval for two sets of outfitting instead of one. So just wanted to explain the context there in case you were confused why we'd equip two vehicles if we're just buying one. We also would like to request approval to dispose of one of our two existing 2018 Dodge Charger vehicles in the city's fleet with Purple Wave online auction, and that would happen as soon as the new vehicle's in service. So our fleet isn't understaffed. There's a lot there. I'm happy to take any questions, and again, we all need to play a good joke on Chief Lawson about what we actually approved tonight.
I appreciate that because
An e-bike, that's right. Class 3.5.
I appreciate that because you mentioned that we're staying consistent with our vehicles now, and that's a good thing. But we're also seeing some motor oil problems with the leaks with all of them too. So maybe it's time to start looking around or something.
Yeah, our maintenance crew at the Public Works Department does a great job helping troubleshoot those issues, and this strategy is just one example of a way they think they're going to help address it. So,
Okay, thank you. Any questions? If not, I'd accept a motion.
I'll make a motion to authorize staff to purchase one 2026 Chevrolet Tahoe vehicle from Roberts Chevrolet in an amount not to exceed $55,950.50 to be paid from the General Fund and Police Equipment Fund, and to authorize staff to proceed with outfitting the 2025 and 2026 Chevrolet Tahoe vehicles via Multiplicity LLC in an amount not to exceed $6,322.89 to be paid by the Police Equipment Fund, and to authorize the sale of a 2018 Dodge Charger on Purple Wave. The sale may transpire upon the activation of the newly purchased vehicle.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Gruby. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Wilkie. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item D, consider approval of city attorney and municipal court judge reappointments. We'll probably do this in two different parts. Mr. Brakovich.
Yes, thanks, Mayor. We are very fortunate that we have created some tenure in these two positions, but by Kansas law, and I think specifically it's KSA 14-201, we're required on an annual basis to appoint a city attorney and a municipal court judge. And I believe Judge Moore he filled an unexpired term, and we had the unfortunate passing away of our previous judge, and he's been doing this since, I believe, 2021. And then Ms. Kristalik, we've entered into an agreement with her since, I believe, 2019. And as we work really diligently to create tenure at all positions in the city, department heads as well as staff level employees, it's great that our contracted folks are similarly in that boat, because there's a lot of good things that come with creating that tenure. I will answer any question you might have. I believe their performance speaks well. You get to see Ms. Kristalik frequently, and if you were issued a citation or just curious about court, you'll see Judge Moore once a month. I do have the opportunity to review periodically with each of them performance issues related, community-related questions, and I can say at least with the judge, I don't get complaints from municipal court patrons. I do have the opportunity, like I said, to talk with Judge Moore. I also get the chance to talk to the prosecutor, the public defender. Those are all additional contracted positions. And of course, with our wonderful court clerk. And so I have no reservations about recommending continuing the contracts with both of them. Again, I'd be happy to answer any questions. I believe it was great. I did tell the judge earlier today, it wasn't by pure coincidence that we were going to talk about e-bikes. Should any of that end up in front of him for consideration, I have no doubts he'll give it a thorough thought and process and review on it. I haven't asked either one of them to prepare any remarks, although I'm sure they're both excited to answer any questions you might have of them.
Thank you. Judge Moore, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
No, I think the last 4.5 years, things have gone very well. I think you have an excellent court staff with city staff, which really helps run the process smoothly, and that's a benefit. I don't have any problems with how it works and how it goes, and so far everything seems to be okay. So unless you have any questions about anything, I just ask to be here for a reappointment.
Thank you, Your Honor. Counsel, do you have any questions?
No, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
So I would request the City Council's consent to reappoint Kenneth Moore as municipal court judge. Could we have a vote of ayes if you agree, or nay if you disagree?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate your work. Ms. Kerselich,
Yes, as George noted, I've been working with the city since 2019. I've really enjoyed it. There's a lot of unique aspects of just different issues and then different projects as well that I've gotten to work on, and it's been an honor and a pleasure to work with the whole team, and I've really enjoyed it, so I'd be honored to be reappointed.
all right. Okay, so I'm requesting the City Council's consent to reappoint Anna Kerselich as city attorney. If all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Item E in the agenda is the resolution 042601. Consider approval of temporary license agreement for Grit and Grind Sports House LLC. Mr. Porter?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm actually going to address both items E and F in the interest of time. You've probably noticed when you reviewed the packet that both these resolutions refer to the same temporary art installation through the same program, the Kansas City 2026 Parade of Hearts. So this is a metro-wide art program that you may have noticed in previous years. I don't remember the history of how long it's been ongoing, but it has been a number of years now, and it's very popular. Local artists and sculptors perform and place these items in areas of note, and it becomes a very appealing thing to people to go track down all the various locations. We've been provided a area map that shows we're sort of at the western perimeter of the communities in the metro area that are participating. The city of Basel, city of Lawrence, and the city of DeSoto are also locations proposed this year. When we look at installations like this that need to be in prominent locations, some options include placing them in parks or publicly owned property or privately owned property where such an installation is permitted by right without any sort of permitting. In this case, what's being contemplated is placement on our 4th Street corridor in either the sidewalk, in the case of the Grit and Grind restaurant and bar that's going to be opening as soon as next month, and then within the right-of-way and a grassy space adjacent to the sidewalk at the Tonganoxie Methodist Church owned property of Grounded Coffee House. In this case, the city has in the past fielded similar requests from other sculptors or artists to do installations of a either permanent or temporary nature. In the event that we put emplacements in the right-of-way, you may remember that in other past instances we've done right-of-way agreements that are actually recorded on the property at the Register of Deeds, so it passes on forever for more permanent installations. In this case, because it's such a temporary program, that's not necessary, and the city attorney has prepared the temporary license agreement that you see in the packet. It's countersigned by the city manager with your approval and the property owner and license holder. So the agreements are fairly short and simple, clearly define roles and responsibilities, and make sure there's no ambiguity, or in the event of unfortunate accident or theft or vandalism or other circumstances, everyone's fully aware of what would proceed from that point. City staff don't have any other concerns to highlight. The recommended locations will be evaluated in terms of the final placement with ADA accessibility requirements, so to ensure 36 inches of free clearance on the sidewalk for people to use. And we don't anticipate, based on the current ideas by each applicant, that there are going to be any concerns with that. I'd like to also recognize that Shelby By with Grounded Coffee House is here tonight and has patiently waited through our meeting, and I'm sure she'd be happy to address any questions you have about their location. But again, staff have reviewed internally and don't have additional comments or concerns to share with each of you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Porter. Now, a question with a previous art piece.
I'm going to recuse myself.
Oh, that's probably a good idea. Thank you, Mr. Wilkie. Previous piece of artwork that came before council had sharp edges and stuff that we were concerned about, the shape of it, kids playing on it. These are all smoothed out. Paint a picture for me.
Yeah, so we've got a diagram that was submitted to us, and we've researched it online. So they are sort of and I'll let Shelby correct me if I say any of this wrong. They are a smooth surface. They are weighted down so they don't have tip over, risk of crushing someone or something. And they're in the shape of a heart, obviously, but they're sort of a box frame kind of structure, I guess. I'm not probably explaining that very well, but to our knowledge, there are no protrusions or sharp edges that could injure someone.
Okay, great. Council, do you have any questions about these?
No.
If not, we can accept a motion for both at the same time, or do you want one at a time?
Since they are separately numbered resolutions, it'd be better if there were separate
Okay.
motions.
We need a motion for the resolution 042601.
I'll make a motion to approve temporary license agreement for resolution 042601 for Grit and Grind Sports House LLC.
All right, thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Gruby. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. Do we have a motion for resolution 042602?
Okay, I'm on a roll. resolution, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion for resolution 0402, or 2602, to pass the approval, or to approve the temporary license agreement for the United Methodist Church.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Stevens. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Dale. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. All right, thank you both. Thank you all. On to city agenda, manager agenda, Mr. Brockovich.
No further items, Mayor. Thank you.
Item 7, the city attorney agenda, Ms. Kirstelich.
No further items, Mayor?
I didn't thank you publicly for the work that you do, but you are fantastic, and we're glad to have you back.
I'll second.
Mayor Pro Tem agenda, Ms. Stevens.
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Okay, item 9. I got the numbers messed up. Item 9, city council agenda. Anybody have anything to add?
Nope.
All right, in the mayor agenda, I have 2 things. I have a proclamation and I have a planning commission reappointments. The proclamation reads as such. A proclamation proclaiming April 2026 as Child Abuse Prevention Month in Tonganoxie, Kansas. Whereas in fiscal year 2024, 70,303 reports were made to Child Protective Services in the state of Kansas. And whereas child abuse and neglect is a serious problem affecting every segment of our community, and finding solutions requires input and action from everyone. And whereas our children are our most valuable resources and will shape the future of the state of Kansas, and whereas child abuse can have a long-term psychological, emotional, and physical effects that have lasting consequences for victims of abuse. I apologize. And whereas protective factors are conditions that reduce or eliminate risk and promote the social, emotional, and developmental well-being of children. And whereas effective child abuse prevention activities succeed because of the partnerships created between child welfare professionals, education, health, community, and faith-based organizations, businesses, law enforcement agencies, and families. And whereas communities must make every effort to promote programs and activities that create strong and thriving children with families. And whereas we acknowledge that we must work together as a community to increase awareness about child abuse and contribute to promote the social and emotional well-being of children and families in a safe, stable, and nurturing environment. And whereas prevention remains the best defense for children and families. Now, therefore, I, Mayor David Free, City of Tonganoxie, do hereby proclaim April 2026 as National Child Abuse Prevention Month in Tonganoxie, Kansas, and urge all citizens to recognize this month by dedicating ourselves to the task of improving the quality of life for all children and families. Thank you. Thank you for your work. Finally, we have the Planning Commission reappointments.
Mayor, before we,
Do I need to get a motion on that?
we'd actually like to, they've requested a photo, if we could, with the governing body. Do we want to handle this last item and then
Yeah, let's do that.
either before or after we adjourn, take that
After we
photo?
adjourn, if that's
Make
okay.
them wait for the whole meeting.
Oh, my God. So sorry.
Yeah. Planning Commission reappointments. I'm sorry, I didn't have those handy with me, and I should have looked them up earlier.
I'd be happy to share. So
That'd be great.
we have 3 positions with terms concluding at the end of next month. Those are currently held a county position by Howard Brewington and 2 city positions held by Kirsten Moreland and Jamie Schertz. All 3 have indicated their interest in continuing to serve and have no concerns to share with you, I guess, about their willingness to serve in that role. So This is an appointment made by the mayor with the consent of the city council in the event of all three of these.
Thank you, Mr. Porter, I appreciate it. So I would propose a recommendation for the reappointments of Howard Brewington, Kristen Moreland, and Jamie Schurz for a 3-year term. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? They're all reappointed. Thank you, Ms. Stevens. That's it for what's on the agenda here tonight, unless Mr. Dale has something.
I make a motion that we adjourn and then promptly take a picture.
All right. Do we have a second?
Second.
I heard Mr. Wilkie first. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Good work, everybody. See you in a couple weeks.